everything you need to know about products and services that can improve your life. This is Experts on Call on CL 650.
It's like the sound of winter.
And we're back. This is Experts on Call on CL 650. I'm Joanne Sutton, and joining us in the studio today from Intact Insurance is Patrick Magnuson, along with Keith Story. And we also have Andrew Tablotny of Laguerre Pelling Insurance. Insurance definitely our topic today, and our focus is on winter weather. We've talked about preparing your home for winter. We've talked about winter conditions and winter driving. We want to talk about some of the other natural occurrences that are already upon us and are a huge factor in potential insurance claims, and that is leaves. And I'm surprised by this, but really, guys, leaves, like tree leaves,
Absolutely.
a big threat.
Yeah, I mean, particularly here where we have a lot of big trees and a lot of leaves, and part of fall is that romantic notion of all the leaves turning color and falling down, and as we know, unfortunately, they don't fall into nice little neat piles on our yard. They tend to fall everywhere, and particularly one spot where they love to collect is in our gutters. And then it rains for a few months, and of course it has a big impact on how all that drains. So I think to clean your gutters, to get rid of all those leaves that are clogging those gutters, it's probably one of the most important things that you can do for a winter preparation.
You can't stress it enough, can you?
Can't stress it enough. And you know what? It's not just probably a one time of the year thing. You probably want to look at it a couple times. But and the other part, if you really want to make your life easier, is stand around the edge of your house and look up and see if there's any big limbs hanging over your house. I mean, it might be easier just to trim a few branches, and trees love to be trimmed anyway, so trim those off, and then we don't have to worry about the leaves quite as much. So,
well, I was going to say a lot of those branches might have come down in that horrible windstorm we had earlier in September. But the other thing that might have happened is some branches may have been knocked loose and are still hanging up there and could potentially fall down.
Absolutely, yeah. Yes, you definitely want to keep an eye out for those. And once that snow lands on it, it'll get heavier and it will fall. Or if we get another good little gust of wind, those things will eventually make their way down.
So you're telling us that we need to check the gutters and we need to check our roofs.
Well, and also sweep your driveways, because leaves are a nasty slip and fall issue.
That's right.
And not just ice and snow, leaves, correct.
Wet leaves.
I would go so far as to say is the drains. Drains on your sidewalk, drains in front of your house.
Storm drains. Yes.
Takes a minute to go and shovel those out and clean them out, so that when we do get the 4, 5, 6, 10 days, 2 weeks, month of rain, that it all goes away as it should.
This is not the city's job to come along and clean those storm drains. It's the responsibility of a homeowner, or?
Well, on my property, it's my responsibility, but I'll go out onto the street in front, and there's 2 of them, and one definitely is clogged on a regular basis, so I'll shovel that off.
It's not your responsibility, but as we mentioned earlier, groundwater is an exclusion under most policies. So it's behooves you to make sure that there's the drain outside the city isn't backing up, because that water could eventually end up back inside your house.
This is true. So I also see on a list of scary items is ladders. Now, how am I supposed to go and check my gutters and check my roof if I can't go up in the ladder?
Well, you can go up on a ladder, but I think, like most things, it's using maybe a little bit of common sense. And if you're going to be putting your ladder up and leaning it against the house, you probably want to make sure that you have the proper extensions and brackets for them, so that they can go up there safely. Tell you a story. I went to get rid of a wasp nest off my shed this spring, and so I just propped my ladder up, and I thought, that's okay, I'll just lay it onto the roof, because it lined up pretty well. So as I was out there in my pajama pants and slippers and a can of wasp spray, climbing up my ladder on the roof, with nobody holding it, naturally it slipped. So
you're very lucky.
My choice was to either go with the ladder or just jump. So I jumped, but it was on my lawn. It was it's just a half a story from a shed. So, but certainly as I was doing that, and as I was going to clean my gutters later that spring, I thought, let's not repeat this. Let's make sure we use the ladder a little bit more safely and use a little bit more common sense with that one.
Or hire somebody.
I think rule number 1 in our house is don't ever go on a ladder without telling somebody else you're going.
Exactly.
Right? So either get somebody in the house to be aware. If somebody's not at the base of the ladder, tell your neighbor, and they'll watch out for you, that someone knows you're going up there.
Absolutely.
Okay. What about getting your furnace prepared for winter? What's involved with that? Just calling the technician, or is there something I can do myself?
You can go ahead.
I think you want to clean your filter, or replace your filter, depending on what kind of filter you have. A lot of them are, you can pull them out and you can basically just wash them, or it might be like more of a paper filter where you have to replace it. But I know for myself, I have a service plan where basically every winter they come out and check my furnace, and every summer or every spring they come out and check my air conditioning. And for me, that gives me good peace of mind. And maybe it's not hard for me to change a filter, but certainly that's not my area of expertise, and for the price it's worth to have a service plan, that works for me. Other people may be a little more ambitious to do it themselves and deal with their filter or all the other items that may be involved.
I'm cheap, so I do my own.
Yeah, there we go.
And we're closing up our backyards at this time of year. Maybe it might be a little early now. I'd hate to think that I have to close up my backyard. But so what's involved with that? Like all my gardening hoses or outside water or patio furniture? Or there's got to be a list of things I can do there.
Well, I disconnect the hoses, whether they're the frost-free hose bibs or not. I disconnect all the hoses and then leave them running and then turn them off on the inside so that the lines drain out. I would recommend that.
Because of freezing.
Yes, absolutely, because of freezing.
Yeah. And certainly in your outdoor furniture,
Gets jammed in the garage or into the shed or into the spare room, or
it's probably better than sitting out in the elements for a while, but at the same rate, put it
Well,
away
it's
carefully.
also wind hazards, right? Because things like that can be, if you get a big storm, depending on how heavy it is, it's blowing around and potentially causing other damage. So.
blowing through your picture window.
Well, that last windstorm that blew through here, half of our aluminum patio furniture ended up in the middle of the yard, so it's going to lift.
Yeah.
If it's a strong enough wind, it's going.
Sure. And then what about putting away all the toys from the summer? Your kayaks, your, I don't know, boats, or what other kind of toys might you have?
I stand-up paddleboards. Well,
Your stand-up paddle boards.
I have a perfect spot for them in the garage and neatly place them away. But again, it's probably stuff you don't want to have outside. Basically, kayaks and stand-up paddleboards could also be considered kites if you get a strong enough wind. So again, something you don't want to have going through there. But put things away, and of course you want to mitigate that theft exposure. So if you're putting it in an outdoor shed, maybe lock that shed.
Sure. Padlock, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, now what if you're heading away on vacation, or if you're a snowbird? I'm going to head south. I'm going to Arizona for 3, 4, 5 months.
Well, under your policy, there's a lot of different terms and conditions, and you should be talking to your broker to find out exactly what those terms and conditions are. We talked about turning off your water. Well, there's a clause in there that says after 72 hours, if your pipes freeze, there's no coverage, and it does occur on a regular basis. And if you're not around, you're not going to see the water, the pipes freezing and the water bursting and filling up your house. So there's a responsibility for you to make sure that that's being checked after if you're gone for a certain period of time.
Yeah, you want somebody to come in and check it every day. And again, that person doesn't need to be a plumber. It's not about them checking that the pipes are frozen. What they're really going in to check is that the heat is still on, so that the pipes don't freeze. So
it could be a neighbor or a friend or a family member.
Absolutely. So they're going in there and they're saying, oh, look, the heat's not on. The thermostat's sitting at 10 degrees. Now they need to know how to do something. Probably call somebody to turn the heat on or whatever the case, or call you. You don't need to have a certified plumber come check your house. The other thing that you can do is like Keith was mentioning with the outdoor hose bibs, is basically drain your plumbing system and shut off the water in your house. That way your pipes are not going to freeze because there's no water in them. And then subsequently
You don't need
avoid that
somebody
whole
to come in. Then you don't need somebody to come in every time.
That would be the easiest solution,
Yeah, that's right.
right? So it's a myth that I let me phrase this correctly. It's a myth that I only need somebody to come in once a week to check on my place, because that's how I'd been operating for years.
No, if
I
you're-
guess I hadn't read my policy.
If you're going to be away for more than 3 consecutive days, then you need to arrange for a prudent person to come in and check.
And this is, of course, during the heating season.
Yeah.
So, during the summer, that's fine. But in the heating season, this is all about frozen pipes. So, if your pipes have the potential to freeze, you need to either have somebody come in and check every day to make sure the heating is still on and the pipes haven't frozen, or to drain those pipes and turn the water off.
Is there a definite date for the heating season? Is that ever different for everybody? It would depend where you live.
Of course, it's going to be very dependent on where you live.
Prince
and,
George, Kelowna, Vancouver, they're all going to be different.
Absolutely.
Okay. You're listening to Experts on Call on CL 650. I'm Joanne Sutton, and joined in studio today by the insurance experts, Patrick Magnuson and Keith Story from Intact Insurance, along with Andrew Tablotny of Laguerre Pelling Insurance. If you want more information on some of the topics that we've covered today, please visit the website, intact.ca. If not, stay with us. We'll be right back to carry on this conversation about winter preparedness on CL 650.
This is Experts on Call on CL 650.